Alrighty, hello.
Hi.
Long time no talk.
For real.
Long time no
I
listen
mean,
for our loyal fans.
yeah, long time. Well, we've talked a few times in the last couple days, but in theory, if people are fucking listening to these things as soon as they come out, it's been a while for them.
Yeah, they've been waiting. I can feel it.
Chomping at the bit. Yeah.
I know. Our content is hot stuff, and
Yeah.
really you can't get it anywhere else.
I know, and I just I've been getting so many DMs and just so many comments asking where we are, and
Yeah.
I want y'all to know that we're here.
We
again.
We are here.
Back to business.
Back to business. Back to communing with each other and talking about the important stuff.
Yeah.
In seriousness, but also talking about the challenge, which we will get back to in a moment.
Eventually.
Yeah, so this is actually our future selves coming at you because we were behind before and now we're even more behind.
Exactly.
This is episode 7 and we're about ready to record 9, 10, and 11 together because we just need to get them out.
Exactly.
So bear with us.
Yeah.
But we wanted to make a quick note just kind of on the state of affairs currently and our brains and our feelings, and just to give you guys a quick update on all of that. Since this was recorded a few weeks ago, Liz, with her beautiful mellowing voice, is going to go ahead and read a statement for you guys.
My brain work bad, so I have to write things out. And
me too, girl.
So like Gabby said, we were already posting a couple weeks behind the broadcast schedule. But we're even more delayed now. And I do want to take responsibility for that since I'm the primary editor. I'm not a good editor, and also editing can be pretty tough for me even when times are good. And I think anyone who's lived through the last few months of 2020, in the last couple weeks in particular, knows that it's been pretty tough. And to be honest, it can feel a little gross or irresponsible at times working on a passion project like this, when so many people are in such a state of mourning. And as of this week, there's been over 2 million cases of COVID-19 just in the U.S., and we all know that's hugely unaccounted, right? And the death toll is over 116,000 people, which... I mean, I don't know about the population of your town, but that's a significant dent in the population of mine. So, and then in the middle of all this bullshit, this slow rolling health crisis, to have this surge of movement against police brutality, obviously sparked by the video of George Floyd being murdered outside a deli called Cup Foods. Any person with a brain knows that just because a video wasn't taken at the time or it wasn't released by the police department, we all know that this shit is happening anyway all over the place. And just because a person doesn't pay for the visit with their life doesn't mean that interacting with the police can't be traumatic, dehumanizing, and scary.
Yeah.
And this is a generational form of harm, right? And it doesn't stop just because we're all supposed to be quarantining right now. So I don't think I'm saying anything new, and I really just wanted to interject and say that me and Gabby work on this podcast because it's been a fun way to stay connected and to think and talk seriously about some at times very dumb shit. And we do want to keep doing it. We post it because we want to be famous and also because our friends sometimes listen in.
Only sometimes.
Yeah. We'll see if they listen to this part. But it's mostly to them that I just wanted to say, really fucking miss you guys, and I hope you're staying safe, and that in any way that you can help, whether it's like signing petitions or even going out to protests, like just do it in any way that you can, but take care of yourself too. And although we don't talk about, you know, what's going on in this episode 7 that we're posting right now, or episode 8, which we also already recorded, we do hope to have some kind of discussion included in the future, but probably challenge related, because that is what our podcast is about right now. And also, like, an editing note, the next few episodes are going to be pretty minimally edited, to allow us to catch up, so you might notice a bit more like ambient noise or weird, awkward, tense moments between me and Gabby.
We fight a lot behind the scenes.
We do,
and we cut that all out.
Yeah, I normally try to take those out, but please enjoy them for now. And enjoy this podcast any way that you see fit. Maybe if you're getting bored at some point, you can take a moment. We're going to drop a site in the description box that has a ton of resources. Maybe you can take a sec to sign some petitions while we're talking about some kid you've never heard of and couldn't recognize on the street. Yeah, so we'll leave some resources in the description box. And yeah, that's basically it. We'll just plunk you right into our regularly scheduled bullshit now.
We can't wait to do it again.
That's right. Okay, stay safe, y'all.
I'm the lead singer type, don't you think?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I didn't really need the but
well, I was mentally putting you like around the stage in different spots, you know, holding a bass, holding the drumsticks, holding, you know, the tambourine. Are you the person who runs on stage and like swaps out the guitars and then runs off?
Bitch, I'm just like a roadie by the end of this. You know, you're more of a roadie.
You know, I've always thought you had a roadie energy.
That is like the least amount of energy I have, is being a fucking bitch for somebody. Although, we respect roadies. They are crucial.
Yeah, they're important, dude.
They
can play some guitar.
However, to quote Eminem, I am the lead singer of my band.
Yeah,
I get all the girls to take off their underpants.
I guess... I mean, who imagines themselves as not being the lead singer? That's what I want to know.
I've talked to several people, and they sometimes imagine themselves other places. Do you imagine yourself as a lead singer?
Yeah. Most of the time.
Oh, so we're having a feud now.
I like singing along to songs, so...
Yeah, maybe it's that you sing along to these songs, that you're obviously the hero of the story.
Yeah.
But I've always thought you would be, like... You could do almost anything. I could see you as a super cool drummer. I could see you as the hella cool bassist. I don't necessarily put you in the guitar context. I don't know why. You could be this super... Like, when we talk about our friend band, you're always the crazy, like, keyboard player with crazy sounds. You know?
You know, it's so hard because I feel so mixed about keyboard players in general. And I'm so glad you've given me the opportunity to talk about this, because
I am here to open pathways for you.
Yeah, but so my favorite band, as I talked about last episode, is Thrice, and they have this amazing guitarist, but honestly he plays so many instruments, he can like play anything, but he swaps out between guitar and then playing the keyboard on some tracks, and they're such good producers, all of them as band members as well, that like the keyboard is good and it's not embarrassing. But there's this other band called Foals. Have you heard of them? They're like British, they're out of Oxford, they're their vocalist has like, oh god, well, okay. Editor, please
Note
cut
to
that.
Liz, edit it out. Yeah.
Hey. Wake up. Take that shit out. But yeah, when I like a lot of their songs, like, they got this good and heavy sound, but that's a small minority of the songs, because a lot of the other ones are like shitty keyboard focused like bullshit. And when I watch live performances and the keyboard, oh my god, I feel so bad if like the guy ever listened to this. Not that he would, but
yeah,
like,
I mean, the rate we're going in terms of viewers, like, he's gonna see it.
He was our one dude.
Yeah,
and
he's
he
the guy
just
who
drops
thinks I
out.
want to be friends.
He's like, oh shit, man, I was really looking forward to episode 8.
Just tell him you respect him and apologize.
Okay, yeah, I do think you're doing something. I just I'm sorry.
I mean, I definitely see what you're saying. Keyboard is one of those things that if it can be indulgent, it could turn into like a 20-minute Zeppelin interlude, for example. Which I love Zeppelin. I really do.
Yeah.
But they do
like,
have those
listening to
super
Led
long
Zeppelin
interludes.
live albums for like an hour. No, like
Yeah.
that puts me in a murderous rage sometimes.
Yeah, there needs to be a harmony amongst all the instruments. And they need their time. You know what's sad, though? There's never a bassist interlude. There's never more than 2 seconds given to the poor bass.
I feel like the sound often isn't good enough. Well, I don't know. If my sister listens to this, again, I'm so self-conscious of who's listening. Can I, like, get out of this headspace? What the fuck? But if my sister was listening to this, she might have something to say, because she does sound professionally sometimes. But I don't know, personally. Maybe it's just that I've never played bass. I'm not trained to hear it or something. But whenever a bass solo happens, I'm kind of like, I can't hear it that well.
Yeah.
Like, it's so almost like subsonic sometimes. And I'm just like, what the...
Yeah. Flea does great bass solos, but obviously the Chili Peppers at this point are working with really great sound equipment, you know? Like, they're at the point...
And also playing venues that, like, have...
Yeah. They're
equipment.
made to play like crazy ass crowds, right? And also Flea's just interesting to watch. Which also makes a solo, right? If someone's just standing in the same spot for 20 minutes as they're playing, it depends on the player, right? But you also want to see some variety, visual stimulation, if you will.
That is true. And, like, I mean, there is something to it. I remember, well, you took cello in, like, middle school or whatever, right?
High school, 4 years.
High school, yeah.
As
so,
almost
you know,
an adult. That's what I call high school.
Contrary motion, right?
Yeah.
When you're bowing, like, when you're bowing down bow, you turn to the left so that you're, like, pulling the instrument against the bow, and you can have, like, fine control and develop that skill.
Right.
But the other thing that it does is that it communicates to the audience what you're doing more strongly, right?
Yeah.
Like, I always kind of wonder when, like, when our conductor was like, here is contrary motion and you should, like, try it out or whatever. I was always like, is this just performing in the literal sense? Is this just like the same thing that people wonder when they wonder what do conductors do, because they don't have an instrument and they're just, like, waving around at the front.
Yeah.
Like, are they there for the audience? Are they there for the orchestra? Obviously they're there for the orchestra and they do play an important role, but, like, it can be confusing to see that just when you're watching the performance
as an outsider, right?
Yeah, and not knowing about, like, the whole rehearsal process and everything as well.
Yeah, and how crucial they are. Obviously, if you're, like, a high school orchestra, the conductor's more crucial than if the players are amazing and can keep time and can stay together themselves.
That's so true. Yeah.
You know?
Shout out Miss Winter. Yeah.
But that's when the conductors really start to perform and they go fucking batshit. I love a good conductor performance. They look like a crazy mad scientist out there with their little what is it, a baton? Their little stick. I'm not sure what it's called. I remember
to me.
So I played orchestra from the time I was in 5th grade to the time I graduated high school.
Damn. Yeah.
And I learned cello in 9th grade because I had always played violin. And then my conductor, the first day of classes, and I had just entered high school, was like, is anyone interested in playing the cello? We only have one cellist this year. And I have always loved I played violin, which is super high pitched and and I just always thought that the deep, sorrowful mourning of a cello was so pretty, and I wanted to play it. So I just raised my hand without thinking, and so I learned cello that year and played it for the rest of high school. Spoiler alert, then I missed violin because the violin is also so pretty. But anyways, we played in the pit for a musical. We did it every other year. First year was Fiddler on the Roof. The second year was Bye Bye Birdie. No, Oklahoma. It was Oklahoma.
Okay, Oklahoma's better.
And there's a part, I can't tell you the song or anything, but there's I wish Leo were here. You may know, but harmonics or something on the cello, super low on the string, which is a really high note, and you don't put your finger all the way down. Yeah. And it reaches a certain, I just think about Sandra Bullock in Miss Congeniality with her cups.
The resonance. Yeah. Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
I didn't understand it. The conductor didn't take the time. At this point, I was first cello. The person who taught me cello graduated that year. I was first cello. I think there was 2 or 3 other people who were a year younger. So I was playing this, I think, senior year. So I was first cello, and I had, during rehearsal, fucked around with the harmonics. He wasn't taking the time to teach us. He was like, don't play it. Play the regular notes. And I fucked around with it, and he was like, that was really good. And I'm like, thank you so much. But I had no clue what I was doing. And so I played it during one performance, and it was pretty good. He liked it. The second performance, I'm playing it, and I'm looking at him, and he just very subtly looked at me, and he was he raised his hand, and he was like, no. And I just quietly put my bow down. I was like, okay, not during this part. It was it's just funny as a player how powerful the conductor's expressions are to you. You're like, oh fuck that up.
That's so amazing. Wow. Yeah, orchestra was fun. I was in it for 2 years. I also started cello in 9th grade, but I was not good at it, so.
Is that where you met Leo? 9th grade cello?
Well, we had orchestra together starting sophomore year, or only sophomore year. Okay. He placed into the intermediate orchestra. We had 3 orchestras.
You at my and school. This motherfucking school, Elizabeth. I don't even want to hear it anymore.
We had beginners, intermediate, and advanced, because you can imagine. Okay, you can't imagine is the thing.
I can imagine. I'm imagining 10 things I hate about you and their castle as a school.
It was not a castle. I'll just say that.
It wasn't Shakespeare either, I'm sure.
No. Yeah.
But
man, that sigh took a lot out of me.
No wonder our conductor always looked maniacal, because to have beginners and you're privately trained people that had private lessons their whole life, those players, to have both in the same fucking orchestra must have been a headache. I'm over here with my crappy ass harmonics, and then this prodigy first violin, who now is a DJ, by the way. Cool. What happened to his gift? I don't know. But
hopefully, he's still working it.
Yeah, he plays a lot of local clubs and stuff. So every time I see him, I'm just waiting for a crazy ass violin solo in the middle of his, dope beats and all that. But it hasn't happened so far.
Yeah. Also, Is that your neighborhood dog?
Oh my god, I can't even hear it because of my headphones.
Oh, shit.
Do you want... I can...
Yeah. Is there anything you can do?
Yeah. Gosh, what the fuck is he... Has it been this whole time, or did he just start?
It's been, like, while you were talking for the last minute or so.
Okay, let me see if... Okay, give me 2 seconds.
Okay.
Keep the recording going.
Food. Yeah.
Is that better?
I don't hear it right now, so that
He's
sounds
still
good.
kind of going, but it's fainter.
Oh, okay, cool.
He barks at everything.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, who knows what we were talking about before that happened.
Conductors.
Orchestras.
Yeah. And also, randomly, have you seen this video? It's like it's a funny one with Mark Hoppus. Like, he has an audience full of bass players, and he's like, guys, come on. We need to start being more interesting on stage. And he has like a PowerPoint, and he's like, some of us were representing, right? Flea, always fun to watch. Like, but come on, guys, would it kill you to look like you're into the music? Like, bullshit like that.
That's cute. Oh, Mark.
Oh, Mark. I was always a Tom girl, but, you know.
I loved them both. I mean, Tom and his lip ring.
Yes. I have a thing for lip rings.
Iconic. I know, me too. Well, on that note, we watched the Challenge Total Madness episode 7 this week, didn't we?
We did. Some of us watched it last week, but you know.
Some of us watched it twice, and some of us doesn't include me.
Either time.
I watched it fucking once.
Yes, episode 7, and it was called Should I Stay or Should I Go?
Yep. So again, like the format, right? Not typical, because episode 6 ended right after the challenge. So we're kind of coming in on a work in progress, right?
Right. I think it even ended during the challenge. Like, this episode started, they're kind of walking into the bunker after having come back from the challenge.
Yeah.
And it's all just, like, strategy mode, right? What are they going to do for nominations?
Exactly. Yeah. So if you'll remember, the winners of the challenge were Nani and Jordan, and they quickly got Jenna to join as the third member for Tribunal.
Right.
So it's the three of them with the control, and they're trying to figure out, like, what everyone in the house is thinking and what it makes sense for them to do.
Right. And Jordan has a plan. A lot of people were thinking that he would choose Tori for the tribunal, but he kind of explains his plan in the beginning of the episode to us as viewers in the confessional. Says, you know, Jenna's checked out and will more than likely put herself in. So he's banking on that, and he wants Tori to vote herself in. It's unclear where this plan originated from. Tori later on seems like she was just itching to go in. I really don't know who it's coming from more.
Yeah, I can't really tell that either, but we've seen Tori talking about how much she wants to go in, even from episode 2, right? The first girls' elimination week. So, yeah, there's a meeting of the Holy Trinity. I'm trying not to call it the Holy Alliance, because I know I keep calling it that. That's a different
one. There's a lot of religious...
Wait, what the fuck? There's a Holy Alliance?
There's an Unholy Alliance. That's Weston Bananas.
Oh, Unholy Alliance. Oh, that's why. Okay. Yeah, Holy Trinity, Unholy Alliance.
There's lots of religious, like, signifiers
Pick another
in
word.
this challenge. I bet you
it.
didn't know that. but we're going in.
Different theme. Yeah, I did not expect.
Yeah, so Jenna, Nani, and Kayla are talking. Jenna wants to go in, so she wants her red skull. That way she has a concrete reason to stay. Since in her mind, she's like risking her relationship in order to be there. And they expect Tori to go in. And they're considering throwing Jenny in. Jenny already has a red skull, but they don't want to run a final against her. That was the mistake in the beginning of giving her such an easy red skull, because now if you don't get her out, she's going to win the final.
Exactly.
She's really good physically. I wouldn't say she's a shoo-in to win for the girls. Like, she's 2 years old in terms of the challenge.
Right.
As we see later from the elimination, a lot of being a challenger is instinct and strategy. And we don't know yet if Jenny by herself has that.
That's true. Yeah, and she seems almost too nice to have it.
Yeah, exactly. But regardless, they're scared of her because at the very least she can run faster and longer than most of them can.
Yeah, so they're talking about like who they're gonna pick to interview and therefore have on the table for that moment after they enter the purgatory or the elimination arena and see what the challenge looks like. So they're also thinking about like what kind of challenge, because Jenna has first pick, right? If it looks like it's gonna be a challenge she's into, and we'll talk about what exactly that challenge would be in a second, but if it's something that she likes, she'll nom herself in. She knows that her opponent is Tori, so she's thinking about what are Tori's strengths and weaknesses and how might I, do better. But if it looks like a pure physical thing or something else like that, maybe it makes sense to put Tori against a strong girl. And it just so happens that some of the strongest girls in the house already have red skulls, right? Jenny and Dee.
Right.
So that would also mean that knocking one of them out in elimination not only gets you a red skull, but also reduces the number of competitors, and especially of the same gender as you, in the final, which might matter, I guess.
Yeah. And I also want to just note, there's a part during this as Kayla and Nani are kind of talking about different people to throw in, where Jenna kind of mutters almost under her breath, like, you guys are really kind of counting me out already.
Yeah, totally.
And she seems, during almost all the episodes, she seems really dejected. She's not as emotional as she was the past episode. I think she's more detached, which you could call it checking out, as a lot of people are calling it. But she, at this point, we kind of see that even from her friends, she kind of feels as though she's being counted out in terms of being in it mentally. It seems like Nani and Kayla don't think she should go in almost, or that she'll want to go in. And so
totally, they're thinking a lot about the option of if she doesn't go in.
Right.
And she's more focused on, like, she wants a reason to be here. She wants to find out now is something that she also talks about. Like, right? So, like, there's no, like, waiting and just seeing how you do in the final in this case. You need to go through an elimination to make the final. So the earlier you know if you can do that, the less time you waste, I guess.
Right. And something that you haven't seen yet, lately they've been doing a lot of purges in challenges, which means you could show up to the challenge and TJ could be like, okay, whoever the last 6 who don't finish are going home. Like, no elimination, nothing. They go home from the challenge.
Just from the challenge? And they don't know that before they run it?
No. You walk in and he's like, purge. And so we don't know if we're going to see one. It's very likely that we're going to see one because there's still so many people in the game.
Yeah.
And so they do that. Viewers don't like it because we like to see an elimination where it's just you and the other person, and you kind of see the heart and who deserves to go home. With a purge, anything can happen. So, that is also something that maybe Jenna's thinking about, like, because she's seen a lot of purges. What if by the end of this, we all have to scramble for the last red skull? She just wants to know that she has a ticket to the final. before she decides
Yeah.
to possibly wreck her relationship
Yeah.
with Mr. Drama Queen.
Oh my god. Yeah, the worst. So yeah. So those ladies are talking about it. Nelson's talking with Jenny and Dee, right?
Yeah, and Kyle's kind of there as well.
Oh yeah. And so they're talking about like what their prospects are, like that they are kind of potentially at risk because we're strong and we have red skulls, you know?
Yeah, we're strong.
Yeah. And then there's another conversation.
Well,
oh, yeah.
Nelson acts like he knows exactly what's going to happen. He's still pissed off from the challenge where he was yelling at Anissa because obviously she threw it so that this could happen. So Nelson's like, this is what's going to happen. I'm telling you, Jenna's going to go in. She's going to be checked out. Tori's going to get her red school. That's it. And he like walks away as if he like dropped the mic. So that's just setting it up for my hatred of Nelson later on. But
no, I'm with you there. Yeah, I totally forgot that happened. So yeah. He's been like this.
Yeah, and I don't know how much Dee and Jenny believe him. Probably not very much. I doubt they've spent more time with Nelson than we have, so they probably are done with his bullshit more than we are.
Totally. Yeah. So yeah, they're thinking that because the last elimination, the Rogan and Jay one, right, was a purely physical one, that this next one might be a puzzle, right? Tori, it sounds like Tori is not super confident on puzzles, right?
Right. She does not like puzzles at all. But even so,
yeah, she doesn't like puzzles, but even so, she's like, I still want to go in. It still makes sense for me to try and be the house nominee, essentially, where you don't have a choice of whether you can opt out. Or like any chance of negotiating that. She says she wants to risk it for the biscuit, right?
She's great at those one-liners. She's just the biggest cheeseball ever. I think that Tori completely believes that Jenna's going in. Jenna, I mean, you've seen Jenna and some of her funny lines and her model run and all these things, and she's not necessarily known for being a smarty pants. She is smarter than people give her credit for, and she has done well in puzzles in the past. Not that she's a puzzle master, but I do think that Tori was like, if I get a puzzle, at least it's against Jenna. I think that is in the back of her head for sure.
Right, totally.
So the Holy Trinity then is talking with the boys, right? Bananas, Wes, and Kyle. All boys who are on their side.
Yeah.
And Kyle walks up and he's like, who do we vote for and what do we do? I think it is the cutest thing ever.
Right. So even though only Jenna and Nani are actually on the tribunal, Kayla's like effectively on tribunal too because she's so closely allied with them. So they're coming to the girls being like, fill us in, like, you know, they're saying Jenna wants to go in. Jenna's not there, right?
No, she is there. Yeah,
she's there.
She's on the couch and she says she doesn't want to go in if it's a puzzle.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, what if you go in and it looks like a hall brawl, something really physical? Then Nani kind of answers for her, and because Jenna pauses, and she's like, then she's not going in, and then Wes is like, okay, so if it's physical, you're not going in, and if it's a puzzle, you're not going in. So like basically, what's left? you know?
Exactly. And I was totally thinking this too. I was like, you don't seem that confident. It's like she recognizes the whole Holy Trinity recognizes that they're in positions of power, but like it seems like she's not at this moment like thinking it through about what she like she hasn't got it sorted.
Well, as the boys walk up, I forget who asked, but I think Johnny, because Johnny, he's very in tune to strategy from all parts, and I think he's a little confused as to why Jenna's on tribunal. So he's like, Jenna, why are you on tribunal? And she's like, I don't know. And it's a very pure answer, right? I don't think that she knew she was going to be on tribunal. So when they picked her, she was like, okay, cool, I'm safe and can possibly go in. But yeah, she hasn't thought it through at all. And now she has all these decisions to make, because Nani doesn't seem to think that it's her time necessarily. So now she just has a lot of pressure and a lot of people asking her what she's going to do, like, and she doesn't really know.
Yeah. So it's kind of with that they start, like, the nomination process, right? So they all meet in their weird little, like, high ceiling naval living room thing. And it's hard because it seems like there was probably a good amount of campaigning Tori did for herself prior to the meeting, but they didn't really show it. But she starts it off nominating herself, of course. She says, like, she'd be honored to have the opportunity. Like, she's really like, please vote for me, like, for student council president. I will do everything in my power to make this the best senior year, or like whatever,
exactly,
you know?
Right? And Wes says, like, no one slow clap for her. This isn't impressive. She thinks Jenna's going in and Jenna's not going to try. So he's like, this isn't impressive at all, which I think is hilarious. But no one else wants to go in currently. So there's no one campaigning against her. She's just, if someone asks to go in, you're going to vote for that person because that's someone that you don't have to piss off by choosing someone else. Could you imagine if Tori wanted to go in and then you pick some other bitch? You're like, Manny, I vote for you. It's like, what? So, the only one that has a problem with this is Nelson.
Yeah. So it's funny because, like, it seems like everyone's just going to be like, yeah, like you said, give it to Tori, even though they don't feel great about it. Strategically, it's, like, pretty neutral. But Nelson's like, hey, I want to take this opportunity to apologize to you, Anissa. I didn't mean to make you cry. Like, I took it too far. All this stuff. Like, did you, like, believe in this moment? Like,
no.
You know?
No.
Okay.
Because here's the thing. When it comes to the challenge and reality TV or anything, really, I think that while you probably should apologize publicly because people are watching you, an apology to me means more when it's private and you do the best to do it away from camera. But
that's so true.
Certain things, not that they're unforgivable, but Nelson displayed a lack of character that didn't just come out of thin air. Like, if you have a certain amount of character, even in pressure situations, stuff like that's not going to come out. Like, he was yelling at her for 10, 20, who even knows how many minutes.
Yeah, no, exactly.
And it's just like, I don't really care that you're apologizing right now. That's not going to take away the fact that for, let's call it 10 minutes, you were yelling at a female who you have no right to yell at for about something that doesn't matter and about something that had nothing to do with the boys' elimination. You know, so I didn't believe that. And also it's just because Nelson has blown up, like, what, 2 or 3 times already in the other episodes?
It's like,
So, did you believe him?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like he felt like he was genuinely apologizing. You know?
Yeah.
But like you said, doing it in public, like, there's a lot of ways you can undermine and be self-serving even when you're apologizing, and he kind of, like, hit all those marks, like you said.
And it seemed like Anissa took it, and she's always been very gracious with stuff like that. Like, she accepted his apology, and but it's funny because the next thing that he says essentially is, I'm going to give Tori this vote, but, you know, you guys are basically giving her a red skull because Jenna's going to go in and she's checked out. And basically, he's just being very sort of shading both Tori and Jenna at the same time. And all the other girls, you know, for letting this happen, right?
Totally.
And Kayla
and, like,
Go ahead.
Yeah, Caleb being the only representative, right, of the Holy Trinity.
Yeah.
There, she's like stepping in and defending Jenna, like saying as Jenna's best friend, right?
Yeah.
Like she's not checked out, you know?
Yeah. She's basically like, it's not a guarantee she's going in. And she's
Yeah.
not, like, if someone were debasing your best friend in front of everybody, saying, like, this person's not going to try at all, it's going to be an easy win, like, obviously you're going to want to say, like, guys, she's going to fight. She's going to, if she goes in, she'll be fine. She's going to fight.
Yeah.
So Nelson is really angry at this, and he says, why does Kayla always have something to say, like, all the time? And it's crazy to me, because it's like, you're talking about her best friend. She has more of a right to say something than you, who is a male and is not even a part of the, like, female elimination.
Exactly. Is not even involved in this at all.
Yeah. And you're talking about this, and it has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, he gets so heated though, right? He's like, and he starts like taking the argument really
Personal.
in a shitty direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, personally. And he's like, he's saying to Kayla in front of everybody, like, go fix your relationship. Go get fucked in a porta potty again.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
so bringing up the shit with Bear.
You're the foulest girl in here. You shouldn't even be talking.
Yeah. You have no respect for yourself. Like, bye.
Yeah.
It's like so much.
It's so awful.
Yeah.
And it's completely, this is part 2 of our dissertation on our last episode, but it's like, as if what she did had anything to do with her ability to speak. Like, why? She should just be quiet because she, quote unquote, got fucked in the porta potty, which wasn't true. She just had like a little kiss, so far as all we've seen. It's just like, I wouldn't take that from my father, let alone some random ass dude. You know?
No, it's messed up, and it didn't just upset us, right? Like, it upset the people who were there. Like, Big T gets, heated. Like, obviously, Kayla's like, that is not true. You know, Bear is coming in and, like, defending Kayla.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, basically, he says, what does he say? Like, who said that she got fucked in a porta potty or whatever? He kind of comes in a really weird way, but he essentially is saying, like, don't talk about her this way. Like, this didn't happen. You don't know anything about her relationship. And it kind of diffuses a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, gosh, not to quote Wes again, but he says, like, Nelson is the only man in the world who can start off an apology about being more respectful to women before he calls one of the girls sitting right in front of him a giant slut.
Yeah, well, you got the whole damn quote. Yeah, so it's a bad look for Nelson, and like he's upsetting the guys here too. He like gets into it with Bear being like, you didn't respect the fact that she had a boyfriend. And the way that he brought that up, I was kind of wondering, like, is it confirmed that Kayla and her boyfriend are done? Because, like, Nelson says she had a boyfriend, not like she has one. So that was kind of weird. But anyway, Kayla's like, Bear's standing up for me. Like, I appreciate him. And then the other person that Nelson upset, right, is Tori. And Tori jumps in after all this and is like, oh, by the way, like, this isn't just giving me an easy win either, like in the same way that Jenna, that Kayla brought up that Jenna was going to fight for this. Like, Tori is taking a risk as well. And like, anyway, it's a strange kind of meeting, but it ends with, right, Tori gets voted in. She puts her name on the board. She's like, politicking is super weird this season. Like, everyone's just kind of like, yeah, that was weird. But the boys stick around to kind of school Nelson a bit, right?
And he has that annoying, like, 1 foot propped on, like, the table stance.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I did not notice that.
With his chanclas, I think. So he's talking to, like, Bear. I think Wes is there. Corey's there. A few of the guys.
Yeah, Josh.
He's still angry. And that's when he calls her a slut.
Yeah.
Which he apologizes again, just to the guys, just for having heard it, like 5 minutes later.
Yeah.
And Corey at this point is letting him know, like, this isn't cool. You're obviously upset. You keep getting upset over things. This isn't the first time. So it seems like he's getting pretty embarrassed to be associated with him, right? Because they've always been best friends in the challenges. And that's starting to hurt his game, he says.
Yeah. So, like, Nelson in confessional tries to defend himself and say that, like, he thinks it's the bunker getting to him or something like that.
Yeah.
He's losing it. He's got to get it together. I don't know. If it were just the bunker, like, I would think that his attacks wouldn't just be centered on women. Like, they would be at everybody.
Good point.
Right?
Good point. Oh my gosh, there's so many things that I just thought of, but one thing I want to mention is that I discovered that in addition to having no windows in this bunker, and Johnny Bananas says that it is underground, but the only time they would leave during the daylight would be for challenges, and they would black out the windows in the van or the bus, so they couldn't see the daylight even as they're traveling to the challenge.
Yeah.
So that would kind of get to you over time, I think.
Yeah.
But the thing with this is Nelson isn't the only one in the bunker. Other people are handling themselves better than Nelson.
Right.
There was a challenge, probably a decade ago by now, called the Island. I think I've mentioned it before. They didn't give them a lot of comfort stuff. Like I think they had, it was like you were out in the island. You didn't have toilets. You had to, like, go and bury your shit. They would just give you, like, bare minimum food. They were eating basically rice, and they had, like, the smallest portions of chicken. They had to cook themselves. They were rationing food. And then some of the most archaic type of, like, these primitive ways of thinking came out, which is that guys should get the bigger pieces of meat because they're bigger, right? So they would cut the meat and give the women half. And give themselves more because they need more sustenance, right? Things like that.
Yeah.
And the villain of this season was Johnny Bananas because he was getting more and more irate with these conditions. It's hot. Bugs are eating them alive. They don't have anything. And so he was an asshole. He was berating women. This is where a lot of his worst reputation comes from, is this challenge. Talking disrespectfully. A lot of times it was towards women. And I think that a lot of the toxic masculinity and the misogyny comes out of your core when you're stripped of your comfort.
Yeah, totally.
But that, I think what society needs to do is realize that that's not an appropriate excuse. That's just a mirror. That's showing you what's inside. And you gotta work on that bullshit. It's not okay. It's not an excuse. We're not gonna be like, oh, okay. Well, you're hungry, so it's okay that you called me a dumb bitch, which is what Johnny's favorite phrase of that season was.
Oh my God.
So,
yeah, there's definitely something, there is something revealing about when you get, like, desperate, when you get the most, like, shook up. What is the closest thing on hand that you use to, make yourself feel powerful, make yourself feel okay? And if it is, like, disrespecting women, which I think for a lot of men it is,
right?
And whether that's, like, disparaging them, whether that's objectifying them, like, online, that's, like, all people do all day long if they want, is just fucking look at babes, think about women being dumb whores, and, like, all this shit. And if that's, like, what is something that you, like, compulsively do, like, I do think you need to fucking check yourself out. Like, think about why that is the way it is and if it's healthy for you and the people around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it comes out even in simple things that we do, like, when you snap at people when you're doing something in a high pressure situation, like let's say you're moving and it's 90 degrees outside and people aren't, I think about like moving furniture with my mother and like she yells at me and it's like the comments that she makes is like, oh my God, I can't believe you said that. And it's, yeah, it comes out of like stress, but it's almost like, are you showing me what you really think right now? And that's just a random example, but like that comes out in so many different ways when you have a little bit of stress on you and you bite. How true is that bite, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting, like, too, because I mean, this is again way off topic, but like in editing these episodes, I'm listening to our comments about like who we like and who we don't like. And sometimes I'm getting nervous about, like, of course no one has pointed this out because we literally have 0 listeners, but like I'm wondering, like, are we putting the women at blame too much? Like, are we fucking internalized misogyny, like tainting our view of these girls and being like, you know, and being harder on them than we are on the guys, like allowing the guys to be worse people than the girls.
Right. I think that's a valid point, because in listening to, we were listening to it earlier today, our last episode.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, was I too hard on Kayla? Because not because I didn't necessarily agree with what I was saying, but because Nelson is being hard on her enough for the rest of us.
Exactly.
No one else needs to be hard on her. So it's true, because we all have the, you know, the toxic masculinity, nuclear family type of society internalized and perpetuated just through how society functions right now, and always has functioned. And we're getting, you know, a little bit better as time goes on, but it's still perpetuated. It's perpetuated in your costumes and in your toys and in the vocabulary and totally. Everything from when you're little.
Every sector.
You're programmed, and to unprogram that just takes a lot of awareness and a lot of time and meditation.
Yeah. Anyway, something to keep in mind.
Nelson needs that.
Yeah, Nelson does need some meditation, I would say. Most definitely. So the last thing kind of before they do their usual debauch night out, you know, their night of drinking and glamour, is Kayla and Bear have a little snuggle. But before that, they like have this scene, right, where she's like kind of thanking him. Bear's feeling good because he's like, I'm a knight in shining armor, like I'm, you know, and Kayla appreciates that. This is one of those moments where like Bear is in the right, you know. I do think that you shouldn't talk to a girl like that. Like, we've already covered why that's wrong.
I don't think we have covered it. Maybe we should talk about it again.
No. Okay.
Yeah, but again, Bear's not right either, right? He went after a girl who had a boyfriend, and that is disrespectful enough. But he was helpful to Kayla in this situation, and she snuggled him for it.
Yeah, and this moment did strike me as just like surprisingly human for these two people who up until now have been kind of ridiculous characters in my head a little bit. The fact that, like, you know, in confessional, Kayla is trying to communicate that there is a side of Bear that actually is a normal person. Yeah. Right? And I believed her in that second. And, like, there was, like, a glimmer of that in this interaction. The fact that he told Kayla, I love you, right, in this moment, but you can tell that both of them know that he doesn't mean it, you know?
A Bear I love you is not the same as a regular
No. Yeah, so it was just kind of
very much.
Yeah, it was great.
But she also says in her confessional that she's been with her boyfriend for 3 years. They lived together, and it was kind of going towards marriage. Yes, and she wasn't ready for that. So while it's not an excuse for her actions, and it does show a lack of character when you act rather than communicate with your partner, right? it does kind of show us a little bit of the reason for why she let it happen with Bear.
Yeah.
She's not ready for where her relationship's going, and she's kind of looking for a way out, it seems, from what she was telling us.
Yeah. So, like, it sounds like Kayla would have had some kind of acting out. Maybe it wouldn't have taken this form, but she was having this anxiety about, like, heading towards marriage prematurely, and something would have happened is kind of the feeling we get. And she says she's happy as Bear that she's making this mistake with, which I liked the way that she put it. And also, like, because Bear is obviously not a dude who's in a great place, like, in terms of his relationships, it seems like he's got issues, right? So it was kind of nice that they were, like, seeing each other in that moment. I was like,
Yeah, and there's been a lot of mistakes on the challenge simply because, I mean, you put a group of young people together. I mean, I guess you don't even have to be young, but you put a group of people together and certain things will happen. But when it comes to the challenge, a lot of times it's just so high stress, and you're with these people 24/7. You don't have any distractions, and the stress of the strategy of the game and the physical demands and all of that is so hard on you emotionally and mentally and everything, that you look for comfort in other people. And a lot of people fuck up relationships at home just because they go for the comfort in the moment. They just want someone to snuggle, and that turns into other stuff, and it's just dangerous. But as a human, you can understand slipping because you just need a fucking hug. Sometimes from the opposite sex. While you don't need it, you want to not need it. Attention from the opposite sex is sometimes a different type of comfort that you yearn for.
Yeah. And, okay, so speaking of...
Yes.
After this, there's, they go out for a night of partying out in the town to some bar. They're all dressed up. It's cute. And there's a bit of a situation brewing between Casey and Nani, right?
Yeah. Although we wanted to talk about Bailey and Swaggy first, right?
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you're right. So Bailey and Swaggy in this party scene, right? The situation, the context for this is that Bailey has come off this challenge where she was paired with Jordan. Jordan, if you remember, was like the odd dude out, so he had to go twice to make up for the difference in number of female versus male players, right? So he went with Nani, and he went with Bailey in this team or partner match. And it was the partnership with Nani that obviously he won with, and that made him and Nani on the tribunal. And Bailey's like still super pissed about this. She thinks it's possible that Jordan threw it or just didn't try as hard. And Swaggy is kind of taking this moment to be like, you can't blow up like this. Like, you're a rookie. You got to keep your emotions in check. People don't know you. And Bailey kind of reinforces this in confessional, saying, like, you know, I was Miss Congeniality at, like, Miss USA or some, like, pageant thing that she was involved with.
Yeah, which I didn't understand.
Who
because
even is Bailey?
Don't they take away your crown for doing certain things?
I don't know. Anyway, yeah, so she's apparently, people who know her know that Bailey is kind, but she's got a lot of ego, she says, she's bringing into this, and Swaggy's the one who's kind of like, keep this in check and do the right thing and go talk to Jordan right now, you know?
Right, so she seems like the kind of person who is really sweet once you get to know her, but she definitely projects like an intimidating presence about her.
Yeah.
As a defense mechanism, right? And in this particular situation, as a strategy. And so even her facial expressions sometimes are crazy. The thing, though, is that Swaggy says, like, when you get upset, pull me outside, yell at me, and then I'll tell you how to go about it. And I'm kind of like... And she, like, likes when he says that, and I'm like, this asshole. I'll do what I want. That's what I would have said. Just as a side note.
All right. Yeah. I mean, so who knows if she'll take him up on that? But...
Yeah. My feeling was that he says things like that and she lets him get away with it simply because she probably does whatever the fuck she wants at all times.
Yeah, totally. She definitely, doesn't wear the pants, but she holds more of the cards, I think.
She fills out the pants more as well.
Yeah. So she goes to Jordan, she apologizes, and Jordan, of course, is hanging with Tori, his presumed, like, only ally in this game, because they're engaged. So this is, like, a meeting of the couples, right? And Jordan is kind of allowing this, like, meeting to happen because he talks about how getting with a couple, that's 2 votes. That's 2 people who are voting together. And so that matters. And also that Swaggy has been in, like, 3 tribunals so far.
Right.
Like, somehow he keeps getting on there.
Yeah,
so, like...
I don't know how the fuck this happened. What if he's, like, secretly the brain behind all of these fucking wins and the editors just choose not to show us?
Dude, what if Swaggy wins this?
Yeah. Oh my god.
Anyway, so Jordan's like, I don't take things personally. He, like, accepts the apology. He says, like, in her ear or something while they're hugging, like, I'm always your friend or something. That was kind of a weird thing to say, I thought.
Yeah, well, I've learned not to take what they say at bars too seriously because you never know how drunk they are. And I've said weird shit when drunk. But totally. We also don't know.
I'm always your friend.
I'm going to say that to you next time we're together.
That might be my Elizabeth quote of the day, brought to you by T-Mobile.
Brought to you by TJ Mobile.
By TJ Mobile. Yeah, we're trying to make segments, guys. So just
let
hold
us know
tight.
How this one goes.
We're working
I'm
on it.
Always your friend. Mine is one of the Wes quotes that I apparently keep tabs on. Wes is the best quoter. It's either Wes or Bananas.
You love him. Yeah.
But we don't know how good of friends Bailey and Jordan are. They haven't shown us too much.
Right.
So they could be super friends. But Jordan doesn't take things very personally. That's one of his virtues. He's able to be like, whatever, dude. You know?
Yeah.
So that's good.
I believe it.
But next, we see Nani and Miss Casey, who we have yet to get a lot of screen time from. They're kind of flirting, or at the very least, Nani is flirting pretty hard with Casey. Casey has a girlfriend. We don't know too much about this relationship. Casey seems to hold things close to her chest. Or the editors aren't, telling us too much.
Right.
And Nani says she's crushing on Casey in her confessional. But she says, she has a girlfriend. So she's just kind of bashful about it. However, she's really drunk at this bar.
Yeah.
I've seen a decade's worth of Nani, and she's one of the messiest I've ever seen her. And she always does this thing when she's really shit-faced where she says bro and, like, dude a lot. I don't know what. She just...
You always notice things like that.
Yeah. I can tell in vernacular how shit-faced some of these challengers are. She's gone.
I mean, she not only says that, I'm sure, but she says to Casey... You make me feel, like, so weird for some reason or something.
Yeah.
And it's so much, yeah. And it's a bit cringeworthy, and the people there are cringing too, right? Like, it's a small bar, so Anissa is seeing this, Jenna,
Big
like, the rest of the Holy Trinity, Big T, like, yeah, all the girls are kind of, like, checking out this situation. But Anissa's the one who, like, steps in the hardest, right?
Yeah. Do you think Casey was flirting back? What did you think of Casey before Anissa steps in?
Oh, yeah. Good question. I do kind of think she was flirting back.
Yeah. I think it was just... I think she was dancing on the boundaries, but respecting it at the same time. She's probably... It's entertaining. Nani's pretty. She probably needs some of the comfort like anyone else. So she's entertaining the flirting.
Yeah. And when Nani's like, let's go to the bathroom, it almost seems like Casey's gonna go. I don't know.
It takes her a while before she's like, Nani. So she won't go to the bathroom with her, which is good for her. She says, like, Nani, just go to the bathroom, she says.
Yeah.
And this may be something that happens in smaller doses on drunken nights. We don't really know. They haven't narrowed in on it. Nani goes pretty hard when she has a crush on somebody. But I'm not really sure. It's clear that Casey and Nani are friends. She's been hanging out with the Holy Trinity a lot.
Yeah, that's true.
So Anissa comes in. She says to try and save a relationship. Because she likes Casey. And wants to save hers. And then, so Nani notices when she gets back that Anissa is talking to Casey about her girlfriend. Right? Basically saying, like, I just, trying to preserve whatever you got going home. Casey's appreciative. She's like, I respect my girlfriend. I'm not going to do anything about it.
Right.
And Nani kind of overhears this.
Yeah, Nani, like, is coming back to the conversation. She pokes her head in, and then she, like, turns the other way towards the bar.
Yeah.
Like, as if she didn't hear anything. But the editors take that moment in confessional to kind of say, like, Nani's like, maybe I'm flirting too much. But Nani, in the moment, she's being coached a bit by Jenna, who's, like, Anissa's, like, trying to be nice to you, blah, blah, blah. But Nani comes back and is just mad at Anissa,
She's
right?
mad.
Yeah, she's like, you're so annoying. I could punch you in the fucking mouth right now.
Yes. It's all very aggressive. And Anissa, all she's really saying is, don't touch me. But Nani is getting more and more aggressive with her.
Yeah.
And
I identify because I totally get a little colorful with my language too in the moment. And I would hope that people know that I'm not being serious. If I'm going to be like, I'm going to punch you in the dick, like, I don't mean that I'm literally going to do that. But, yeah, Anissa is hurt by this, right? And
yeah, I agree to a certain extent, but I think that you can sort of tell when a friend is serious and when they're not. Like, at least serious in the emotion of it. Like, Nani seemed pretty intense about it.
Yeah.
But it also could have just been, like, her, like, her drunken aggression meter was off and she didn't realize how hard she was coming.
Yeah.
But it also goes to a confessional of hers, and she says that she has so much stress built up in her that anyone that gets in her way, she's going to attack.
Right.
And she's like, it just happens to be Anissa. So I feel like she can't follow the conversation completely. She keeps saying, like, what'd she just say? So she just gets, like, bits and pieces and then just attacks Anissa on it.
Right. Yeah, so Fessy kind of has a comment in confessional. He's like, Nani's on a power trip. Like, that's kind of what it looks like. But anyway, there's a moment, right, where it seems like things could get physical for a second.
Right.
Because Anissa says, take the trash factor down. Nani didn't even hear what she said, but she still, like, kind of lunges or something like that.
Yes. But everyone gets in their way.
Yeah, Casey is holding Nani back, like,
Kyle's in the middle.
Yeah. And
yeah, but then after she's like, what'd she say? To Casey. And I love it because she's with Jenna right after. And Jenna, all she says, she's like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. And Nani's like, what? You're gonna be honest about what? Like, just not having it from the beginning. And Jenna's like, don't get mad at me. It's the best exchange ever. Like,
it's pretty cute.
And then they go home, right? And everyone's kind of in their PJs. Nani's chilling with a cup of noodles.
Yep.
And she's in a little room. Go ahead.
Yeah. she's asking Jenna what happened tonight.
Yeah. Another great Nani Jenna exchange.
I feel you, girl. And it seems like Jenna's trying to accurately describe what has happened, what has transpired. But Nani's getting pissed and acting like Jenna's blowing her up, like making this a bigger deal or something.
Right.
Jenna's like, I'm literally just telling you what happened, like you asked.
Yeah, it's like the first sentence that Jenna says, and she's like, oh, great. Jenna's blowing it up. Like, here she goes. And Jenna's like, dude, I'm just trying to relay. I'm answering your question. Nani's still clearly not having it.
Nani doesn't believe that she, like, put her hands on Anissa. She's like, it's basically like a fake news sort of situation coming from Nani.
And she's mad that Jenna even brought it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Kyle says something that's funny. This might actually, I'm going to go ahead and make this my quote of the episode. Brought to you by TJ
great.
Mobile. He's like,
TJ
I
Mobile,
actually love crazy Nani. That's my favorite kind of Nani.
Yeah.
I'm with fucking Kyle, okay?
I loved that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And this was a great line, too. Anissa's kind of, like, on the fringes of this, right? So Nani's having this moment. Wes is there. Kyle's there. Jenna, blah, blah, blah. But Anissa's kind of in the hallway outside with some people. And she can, like, hear what's going on, and Nani starts to engage.
Right.
And she is calling Anissa corny.
Yeah.
She's like, you're corny! You're corny!
Absolutely.
And even though it's pretty funny to watch, like, I can understand that this is actually upsetting Anissa, you know? She is kind of, like she says, she's, like, an older player. She's been on the most challenged seasons, right? And yet she's not in this, like, main girls alliance. Like Melissa, who she was kind of commiserating with earlier in the night, like, they're kind of on the fringes in some ways.
Yeah.
And it sucks because she feels like she doesn't know who has her back. The fact that Nani is, like, taking this so hard and using low blows. Right.
Yeah, she brings, I don't know Anissa's exact past, but I believe that she used to be a stripper, or that might just be something that's rumored, but that's sort of what Nani's referencing, you know, that she took her clothes off for money, all of this stuff, it's low blows, right? She's going for under the belt, and Anissa's not engaging. She hasn't engaged throughout any of the night in terms of, like, a low blow, right? And she exited the room. She doesn't even want to deal with Nani. She's leaving the situation. And Nani
throws her noodles.
Yes.
The cup of noodles that she had after her. It doesn't hit anyone, thank goodness. Bailey, who was watching, is like, they were so hot, and throwing a cup of noodles at someone while they're hot is so rude.
Yeah, and it's funny because the next morning you see Nani picks it up. Like, everybody just left these noodles on the ground.
They almost do, like, a time lapse of, like, then everyone goes to bed, and then look at the noodles now. Still on the carpet. Now they're dried and, like, hardened. And poor Nani is there cleaning up her damn noodles. Yeah. And isn't that a metaphor for when you fuck up and you have to, like, apologize to everybody? You gotta clean up your noodles.
Exactly. Or your vomit. Whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the next morning, there's, like, an apology tour.
Exactly.
Nelson apologizes to Kayla. That's the first thing we see. All I wrote was, Nelson apologizes to Kayla, whatever. That's how I felt about it. What the fuck ever. Do you have additional thoughts?
I mean, I did kind of take note of the exchange. Nelson's like, that's not who I am. Kayla seems like she's just accepting it immediately. She tells him, I accept your apology. I appreciate it. She's, like, talking very quickly as well. It seems like she's just kind of letting him say the thing, because in confessional, she's like, you can apologize, but the fact remains that we've had this consistent history. I've gotten a lot of apologies from Nelson, so I find them hard to believe at this point.
Yeah. She's like, this isn't even the second or third apology. Like, that seems very specific to me. Like, it's a handful of apologies she's gotten at this point.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know much about like the history. I did get a recommendation on YouTube, a clip of like a previous season about how Corey and Kayla had something going
They
on.
did, yeah.
So I don't know if that relates at all, but it's strange that Nelson is like so he's targeting her.
Yeah, you know, there was a season where Corey was on the season with 3 girls he'd hooked up with.
Oh no.
Anissa, Kayla, and this other girl, Camilla. It was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Johnny Bananas has said, he's like, the most impressive thing Corey's done is get through that challenge with the 3 girls he's hooked up with.
That's pretty good.
But the more sincere apology that happens is Nani goes and apologizes to Anissa.
Yeah.
Anissa says at one point they've known each other for over a decade. At this point, they've been doing challenges together. They have a long-standing history, and Anissa accepts her apology because it's just too much to hold on to not accept her apology, right?
Right.
And we sort of get a look into both of these girls' psyches in a way. Nani, for her part, has said she's been on her own since she was 18. And she struggles with trusting herself and her instincts. And so I know earlier you were saying like you were kind of agreeing with Fessy that it looks like a power trip. I think that it's more of she just gets overwhelmed when she has power and she doesn't know what to do with it. Because she doesn't know if the decisions that she's making are correct. In terms of the Holy Trinity, she's the most veteran of them there. She's clearly kind of the brains of it. She's leading Kayla and Jenna in terms of what the best option is. If you'll notice later in the tribunal, Jenna sort of echoes Nani in what she says. She sort of waits for Nani. So...
Right.
But Nani internally is stressed about if she's doing the right thing, if she's thinking the right thing. Nani's unsure if she can trust her instincts with all the power that she has. She also says earlier that she is taking on the stress of Kayla and Jenna and everything they've been going through in their relationships, in what other people are thinking of them. And she's like, I'm thinking so much about their game that I don't have time or energy to think about my own.
Right.
And it's true. In this tribunal, she's barely even thinking about if she wants to go in. It's all about Jenna.
Totally.
So she's just stressed, and she says that she's mentally broken. And I also want to note, this is her 3rd season back, and her first 2 seasons, they were very intense. Last season, she was ostracized on her team. Everyone was against her. So I think she's just stressed the fuck out.
Yeah. And
she lashed out. And in this case, it was against someone that she loves. Sometimes you lash out at the people that you know will forgive you, unfortunately. And so that's kind of where Nani's coming from.
Yeah. And it seems like Anissa does forgive her, right? Like and she's telling Nani, comforting her. I mean, you can tell Anissa's still like kind of gonna feel this for a bit, but she's like, this place is meant to break you, you know. And like Nani seems to be like truly like in confessional, it seems like you can tell that not only is she crying in the scenes with Anissa, but also in confessional her eyes are like still red, it looked like, you know, like she was getting emotional. She was really feeling this. And she's like she says, like, she can't believe she threw the fucking noodles. Like, a lot of people just wouldn't have forgiven her and given her that chance. And, yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yeah, and Nani has been on the challenge for so long. She doesn't do this very often. She has drunken nights, for sure. She makes mistakes. She kisses the wrong boys, whatever, right? But she doesn't attack her friends, and she doesn't do low blows. Like, that's not something that she does very often. At least not when someone hasn't antagonized her, you know? So I do think that she's genuinely sorry. This isn't, like, something that she makes a pattern of. And then there's also Anissa's point of view, right? That, like you were saying earlier, that she always sort of plays the big sister or the mom because she's older. I think she's probably about 10 years older than Nani. I could be wrong. And so I can understand where she's coming from because she always kind of has to be the strong one. There's a lot of scenes, not just in this episode, but in other ones, where she's hugging these crying girls. Totally. Who are going through it, you know, and she's just very sensitive, and Issa's so sensitive, and she's so caring and thoughtful, and she has so much love to give, and people recognize that in her and take comfort in her, but no one really takes care of her, unfortunately, and so we're seeing that for sure in this exchange where she's like, someone I've known for 10 years has just sort of said some really nasty things, and now I have to forgive her because she needs me to.
Yeah.
Almost.
Totally. Poor Anissa. Nani and Anissa, they get things together just in time for basically the tribunal the next day, right?
They no longer want to throw Jenny in.
Yeah, my notes here are not very good.
She basically says, like, it's too risky to throw Jenny in at this point. Because Jenny has a very good chance of coming back against Tori in most things. So to piss her off, it would be just too risky at this point. So they decide not to throw Jenny in.
Right. So, yeah, they're still not sure if Jenna's going to go in, right?
Yeah.
They say if Jenna doesn't want to go in, Nani is also a possibility for going in, right? Because she's also on tribunal. So they're trying to figure out like who their options are going to be so that they can have their interviews. So the first one that they all kind of decide on, and Jordan's the first one to bring it up, is D. So Jordan is mad at D because he says that she lied to them. She didn't put Tori in on the first elimination. And Jordan thinks that Tori can beat D. Plus D has a skull, so taking her out would mean another strong competitor gone from the final. So that's their number one. Nani brings up, can we do Kayla? Because just in case we want to give her the opportunity. It seems like this was never going to be a true option, but that's their number two. And then kind of the more difficult choice in terms of like the honor of it is they decide on Big T for number 3. Big T is a rook. Jordan says, like, I believe in my fiance's like abilities, but just in case, let's put someone in that I'm very certain like she could beat. Just as an option.
Right. So like, let's say they go in and it's like a crazy ass puzzle or something. They just want someone that they're pretty sure is going to lose no matter what it is, I suppose.
Yeah.
When she goes in for her interview, she's fucking livid. Yeah. She is steaming. She can't even keep the look off her face. She goes in there basically defensive, like, they're like, how was your day? She's like, good until I saw that. Like, pissed off.
And she's mad at Jordan specifically. Jordan understands why. Jordan kind of says, like, reiterates, you rubbed me the wrong way when you gave Jenny, and he's framing it more as like, you gave Jenny an easy skull when it could have been Tori's. Like, also discounting that, like, that was a wasted chance for everybody. Right. Because Jenny would probably win against most girls. And Dee kind of ends it with saying, like, if you put me in, I'm going to beat Tori. Like, I'm not going to be an easy win. And I'll come back and I'll be pissed.
Right. And Jordan says to her, like, I just want you to know how seriously I play the game. Yeah. Or how... And so he's just kind of slapping her on the wrist, right?
Right.
He wants her to know, like, you don't get off scot-free in this shit.
Yeah. Totally.
Which she seems to be under the impression that she does.
Right. And it's, like, definitely, there's no way that, like, if it was something that Tori wanted to do, that they would choose to put D in over someone like Big T. That's just, like, not
Yeah, he
possible.
just wanted to make her tremble a little bit.
Yeah. So Kayla comes in next, right?
Yeah, she's grateful. She's happy to be there.
Yeah.
And she's basically saying, like, if there's something to do with climbing, she's pretty good at that. She's kind of non-committal. I don't think she's particularly happy I don't think she wants to go against Tori necessarily.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty evenly matched in a lot of things. So Kayla's not good at puzzles. She's pretty good at climbing, but so does Tori.
Yeah.
And Tori's bigger than her, so in a head-to-head, she might lose. So I don't think she wants to go in necessarily.
Yeah, and then the last one was Big T, and it's super sad because, like, as soon as Big T saw her name, it was clear that she was shocked and, like, pretty upset. She thinks of this as, like, people not liking her, right? Which unsettles her, right? So she goes in with, of course, like, the worst speech ever on her own behalf, saying, like, keep me in, I'll be an easy layup for later. And it's just like, oh, girl.
Well, it's sad for her end, but it's true. I thought her speech was good because she's like, why wouldn't you just save me for the end? That's what they're doing anyway. Yeah. That's why Big T is still here. And she doesn't lose anything by saying this and acknowledging this out loud. You can, because it doesn't matter what other people think. If you think you can win, then whatever. But she's basically saying, like, save me. And so I thought that was the only thing she really could say. Yeah. But she starts to cry. And she's just overwhelmed. And I start to really feel for her. I actually almost got emotional because it was one of the purest moments that we see in the episode. Like, she's genuinely she doesn't understand why she's called, like, every girl's elimination. Yeah. And it's an intimidating room to be in, at least if you're a rook. Like, these three people looking at you. She's just kind of, she said she was having a moment.
Yeah. And sad. Like, yeah, she leaves, and Jenna and Jordan are both like, I love her, she's so sweet. Like, Corey's outside to, like, receive her and be like, give her a big hug and be like, keep doing you, Big T. And, like, it just seems like she's super beloved in the house, which was cute.
Yeah, she just seems like a good, sweet person. You know? How could you not like her?
Yeah. Oh my god, this episode was so long, I'm realizing. There's so much in it. But the next thing that kind of we gotta touch on, because it matters for the final, is just re-examining what's going on with Jenna and Zach. So, like, in the last episode, Zach was like, you gotta come home, otherwise there's no chance of us working this out. But they're having another phone call after this. And from the get-go, Zach is on, like, high bitch mode. Like, he's like, he prefaces the call by being like, this might be the most important phone call I've ever had with you.
Yeah,
like,
it's great. It's so great.
Oh my god. It's disgusting.
Yeah, he basically hates that she's still there.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of trying to reason with him. You can't reason with Zach when he's in his feelings. You just can't. But Jenna always tries.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to get $1 million for our future. She's like, we have a house now. And he's like, I have a house. And I was like,
just
wow.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
So it seems as though Zach has bought a house and Jenna lives there. She's just paying rent, maybe. So
yeah, I hated this. I really hope she gets a better boyfriend.
Yeah, he says, if you don't come home now, I'm done, and your shit will be in boxes. I don't want to talk to you, basically, is how he ends it. And Jenna comes out, and she's telling this to Kayla, and it looks like Bailey's in the room.
Right.
And she's not crying. She's as indignant as Jenna gets. But she's also kind of detached a little bit. She doesn't like being given this ultimatum.
Right.
And she just doesn't seem as grovelly as she was last episode.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it seems like there is, like, some kind of resoluteness forming in Jenna at this point, right? Like, I think she's starting to buy into her own strategy here, which is that, like, getting this red skull gives me that reason to stay in the game. And, like, I know that it's the right thing to do. I just need to put myself in a position where I have to do that, you know? Because, of course, her heart is feeling this, right? Like, Kayla in confessional, like, kind of does Jenna dirty, saying, like, she's probably going to go home and all that. Like, she disapproves of Zach in this moment, but she seems, like, kind of resigned.
Yeah. I'm unsure how close Kayla and Jenna actually are. They're best friends in terms of the challenge, but I know that, like, Jenna and Nany, they're both from New York. They hang out all the time. They're, like, actual best friends.
Yeah.
I don't know where Kayla lives. I don't know how much of a daily best friends forever type of vibe they have.
Gotcha.
So, I also just think that Kayla is a less caliber person than Jenna and Nany, personally. I've never really liked Kayla. But anyways.
So there's just, like, a bit of time before the elimination. So there's, like, a bit of editing done where we check in on the girls who are possibly going to go in, right? So again, that's Tori, Dee. Like, Tori for sure is going to be in it. And then it could be Dee, Jenna, Nany, Kayla,
Big T,
and Big T, right? With Jordan being, like, the one dude who has, like, a say on this, like, otherwise all girls. So Tori, she's talking with Jordan. Jordan's kind of, like, in that mentoring mode. It reminds me of that Gordon Ramsay meme where, like, he's holding the bread on the sides of the girl's head and being like, "What are you, an idiot sandwich?" That's, like, his vibe in telling Tori, like, you're gonna perform, like, you're gonna get in there and you're gonna do it.
So can I also just give you a little bit of context?
Yeah.
They fell in love on her first challenge, on her rookie season. So he has had a hand in her entire career on the challenge, pretty much. Yeah. So he's been training her from the beginning, almost. From the very beginning.
I mean, I would hate that as being the what my relationship's about, but whatever.
Yeah, Tori's the only one that doesn't get pissed off at Jordan right away.
Yeah.
When he does shit like that.
But I think Jordan does, like, have some wisdom. I liked when he said to her, you know, Tori's like, I wish people didn't expect me to win this. I'd rather be the underdog in this scenario, you know. And Jordan's like, hey, well, everybody here wants to see a champ lose. You're a champ. So turn that into being the underdog because the people are against you in a way, right?
She's not a champ.
I know, but that's what he's saying.
I know, but, like, I just hate it because she's not anywhere near what either of them think she is. But anyways,
I'm not saying that it's true.
I know. I'm just annoyed. I'm annoyed because I'm remembering this conversation and it's pissing me off.
Yeah.
I just wish that, like, they didn't think I was gonna win. That's such a burden. Like, shut the fuck up. And I don't even dislike Tori. Tori's fine as a person, but her ego is annoying me this season. But it's because of Jordan. Jordan does nothing but feed the monster. But anyway, speaking of monsters,
the true monster,
we have a conversation between Dee and Wes.
Yeah.
Dee is still fuming. Like, I just picture her sitting in a fucking corner since this happened with steam coming out of her ears.
Yeah, she's got her highlights and her perm, and it's just, like, big angry energy, like, in her hair.
She can't believe she's been nominated.
Right.
Which I can't believe that she can't believe it, because Jordan literally told her that she was kind of going to pay for what she did. Tori told her, and now she seems sort of surprised by it. Totally. And I don't really understand why. This isn't like an idol. This isn't... If it were someone of less caliber than Jordan, perhaps it would be something to sort of be like, why are you doing this? Because I'm going to fuck you over. But Jordan, he just generally doesn't have to worry about a lot. So right. It's kind of like, you should have expected this. Of course he's going to play with you and fuck with you as much as he can, because you didn't throw his girl in when he wanted you to.
Right.
And Wes is talking to her, and he says that he used to have to train her to have, like, mean faces, and now he can't get her to stop. Right. He says he's created a monster.
Yeah.
Which is really funny.
It's a bit dramatic, but, I mean, it's true. Like, she's putting on a lot of attitude this season. I don't know if that's, like, typical or not, but Wes is trying to kind of, like, rationally say, like, hey, stop getting so mad, because you're not even gonna go in, right? Like, either they're gonna put in Big T or they're gonna put in Jenna, so don't even fucking deal, you know?
Yeah. Like, she wasn't, it could be editing, absolutely, but she wasn't like this before, because she was learning, and she was new and everything, and she was trying to make friends, including friends of the viewers. So if that is what Wes was seeing before, and now he's seeing this, I'm sure he's noticing these changes. And for whatever reason, ego doesn't always look as pretty on a girl. And that's, related to our conversation earlier, but so I think he knows that that's going to hurt her game in the long run.
That, and it's also, like, clouding her ability to think rationally, which it does for all of us, but she's like, no, like, it is possible I could go in, because Jordan is this, like, angry at me. Like, she is seeing that, like, Jordan has his eye out for her, and she's convinced that, like, she could still go in.
Because the reality is that Jordan could get in a lot more tribunals and fuck with her. And the thing that Jordan demonstrates is that he doesn't act emotionally. He calls her into the tribunal interrogation to fuck with her, but he doesn't put her in to spite her. Right. Because that could hurt Tori's chances of coming back. So he doesn't act emotionally. He acts with reason. Yeah. Whereas if Dee were in the opposite situation, it's possible that she would have thrown Jordan in to show her power over him in that moment. And it could have fucked with her. So it's important not to play with your emotions.
It's interesting, too, because, like, I'm reminded of the Dee versus Jen drama from a while back, and how kind of, like, flustered my impression of Dee was in that moment. And I'm thinking about it now because Jenna is kind of the one who feels flustered to me in this episode. Like, she's kind of congealing around this idea that she's going to go in. But like Wes says at the beginning, like, you don't want a physical one, you don't want a puzzle one. Like, what do you want, And she's like, and it just... Anyway, the next thing that happens is the elimination, right? Which, let's do that before I get to what I want to say. So we know it's Tori, and then it could be, again, Big T, Dee, Nany, Jenna, or Kayla, right? So as soon as they walk into the arena, Nany's like, nope. Because what they're showing very confusingly through these, like, very short and flashing clips is, like, two kind of ramps. It seems like they go up to a platform that's maybe like 10 or 15 feet off the ground. So the ramps are like pretty big and like at a pretty steep incline, right?
Yes.
And at the top of these, on these platforms, there's two of them, they're facing each other, is a grate. And positioned under the grate, so like 10 feet below it, is a wheelbarrow. And then about, like maybe 15 yards away from both of those ramps, there's a pile of bricks. The bricks seem to be made out of, like, plaster or something like that. They're like
like wood chips or something.
I think there's something kind of close to a clay, or like almost like a pottery thing, but like a bit more. Anyway.
They're not actual cementy bricks. Let's
Yeah,
put it
they're
that
not
way. They're
like
not
red
smashing bricks.
Yeah, and they're not cinder blocks either.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, there's something that like can crack and break. So there's a big pile of them there.
And so you can see that you're going to be going up and down that ramp for a while.
Right.
And Nani's like, nope, I would have done the same thing. Fuck
there's going to be some kind of carrying bricks, and Nani's like, no. So TJ, standing in the center.
Look at you, TJ.
TJ. I know his name almost. So he says, house chose Tori, come on down. And Jenna, it's kind of all up to her, right? He asked the tribunal, like, okay, what are you guys going to do? And Jenna's like, I think that I can do it, or whatever. Like, she doesn't seem super confident in this moment. Like, she's trying to be confident, but it's just like, I don't know. I didn't have a lot of faith that she would actually pull this off with the way that she walked into this.
I felt pretty good about it. Jenna Jenna kind of has a monotone vibe. This is always her vibe.
Okay.
So I thought that she seemed pretty confident as far as Jenna goes. And Nani keeps asking her, are you good? You good? And she's like, it is what it is. Like, Jenna, at this point, seems resolved. She doesn't care what it is. She's going to go in. She seems pretty resolved to that. And I think that that's the best way she could be. And I was happy to see that. But she makes her little speech that she wants to earn and know she's going to the final, and she needs to go in there. So she goes down. She goes down and into the arena with Tori and says that she needs to put herself first.
Yeah. So, even though, like, at the start of this episode, like, post-challenge, it seemed like a pretty complex situation. Ultimately, the matchup is kind of, like, the one that's been the most likely from the start, which is Tori v. Jenna. And,
the only wild card being whether Jenna's heart and soul are going to show up.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, I don't know. It seems like you thought that was more of a possibility than I did, because I actually...
You're sitting there like, oh, fuck.
I was like, she wasn't convincing me that she was going to take this, but she's like, I have endurance. And really, that is what, like, pays off. So this elimination was called Dust to Dust. So I've described kind of the setup of the arena, but just to, like, make the rules clear, you have to carry those bricks up the ramp to the top of the grate, throw the bricks down as a way of smashing them so the pieces fall through the grate into the wheelbarrow. Then you have to run down your ramp, grab your wheelbarrow, roll it over and, like, up another little ramp so that you can pour the contents into this bin that has a red line, and whoever's debris crosses that red line first wins the match. It doesn't seem like you have to fill it up all the way. Just to have, like, any piece that crosses that line, it seems like is what it takes to win it. So
I was really wishing that someone was over there smoothing it out, but
I know, like, jiggling it so it settled. Yeah, it does seem like this took a long time, right? Like, how long do you think this elimination took?
Maybe an hour.
Damn. Yeah, because the crowd is, like, cheering them on. So once they start, they're both, like, trying to get a feel for, like, how to smash these bricks. Obviously, it's, like, not something that anyone has really practiced.
Right. But the thing is that they do two different strategies in terms of how they collect it. Jenna takes two at a time, so which surprises everybody. It's, like, up to her chin. And Tori, I think, just grabs one. And then Jenna stays up there. And Tori comes back down to do another trip. She's like, I'm going to get a bunch of bricks and then do it later. Is Tori's strategy as opposed to Jenna's.
That's right. And also, Jenna, in confessional, I think, says that one part of her strategy is that she's not going to be too... she's not going to be too liberal. She's going to play it kind of conservative in, like, how much debris she'll allow through before she runs it over to her bin. She's like, I could tip it over and I could lose everything. So I don't want to like smash too many bricks, such that it's too unwieldy.
Especially right. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, especially because she doesn't know what it's going to be like going up that ramp with it.
That's what I was going to say. Until you've done the first trip, you have no idea how heavy it is, what it's like to go up that ramp, So she's definitely going to play it conservative, at least for the first one. Right. So she smashes it horizontally down pretty hard. Anissa says it seems like she's smashing Zach's head. Like she's standing up and throwing these bricks down as hard as she can, and the debris flying everywhere. Whereas
so it's just
Tori,
like raining through the grate.
Yes.
Tori thinks that like maybe I can push some of these pieces that aren't like falling through. She's like crouched down. She's
on her hands and knees.
On her hands and knees, and it's Jordan, meanwhile, is just screaming from the stands at her to stand up. Because, of course, if she stands up, she can have more gravity on her side that's doing some of the work for her. Just the acceleration of dropping it from a higher position and then throwing it from a higher position as
right.
well.
It seems like Tori... Because she tells Jordan, trust me. She's just kind of muttering this, even though I'm sure he can't hear her. Yeah. She's trying to fit really big pieces through. As if she thinks that's, like, perhaps she's thinking, maybe I'll make it taller rather than more dense.
Right.
And that's going to be the deciding factor, but that just would take too much time. So, eventually she does also stand, but it just takes her too long to switch to that strategy.
So they're both like kind of perfecting their techniques over how long this actually takes. They're getting some debris like into the bin and everything. It looks at first like Jenna's totally got this. That's what the people in the crowd are kind of cheering too. Like you're winning. Like Nani's telling her you're winning, Tori has bad technique. It's clear, like even Melissa is like commenting on that in confessional. But it starts to even out once like Jordan like runs, right? He can't stand being on like the tribunal edge, which is actually further away from Tori's ramp thing, right?
Yeah. It's closer to Jenna.
Yeah. So he like runs over so he can like yell at her. Right? He's telling her to like throw the bricks down flat. So don't do it on their tall side, but on their shorter side, because then they'll be more likely to break. Anyway, it starts to kind of work out.
She says she's trying to interpret what Jordan's saying as best as she can, which is probably true, but to us it's kind of like he's very clearly just saying some clear stuff. Stand up, do it flat. Yeah. And for some reason, it's just taking her forever to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't know why.
I don't know if it's like she doesn't believe it, or like if it's just too loud with the bricks, like is she concentrating too hard? But anyway, she's starting to finally get the hang of it. I liked Bananas was like Jordan, there's a tantrum if people don't put the lid on a jar of mayonnaise, and so he's like freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, he's like, you can imagine
kind of blowing this. Yeah, and Tori says like she's a bit intimidated because Jenna doesn't look like she's tired out, and Jenna, it seems like, has a little dip where a lot of things like aren't going through the way they want, and that kind of evens it out, so that like they're both emptying these barrels at like the same time, and it looks very even, and it looks like it's about to be the end of the game. Like both of these girls are like running their barrels and like tipping them over. It seems like a nail biter whose is gonna get in first, but neither of them have enough debris to actually clear it, so they have to go back one more time. Yeah. Right?
And all the vets are rooting for Jenna.
Yeah.
It seems like. And Jordan just keeps like screaming for Tori and screaming at Tori.
Yeah, he's like, please run, like it's...
Yeah. He keeps saying work to her because there are times in which she's not hustling, like, because as we can kind of see from the end, every second is precious. And so every second that she walked or jogged when she should have been sprinting, he can see that time adding up.
Yeah.
And it is frustrating the fuck out of him.
Yeah. And even though I wouldn't say that Jenna is like hustling, she's consistent, right? Like,
Yeah.
she wasn't busting her ass from the beginning, but she's like maintaining her clip. It's that endurance that's really coming in.
Yeah. But I will say that Tori seems to have pretty good endurance. Yeah. And if she had picked the right strategy from the beginning,
right,
she probably would have beat Jenna, because she's a little bit faster, I think, than Jenna.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think so too. Anyway, so it is this kind of like photo finish. Jenna dumps her last load in the bin. Like, it looks like a second or two before Tori does, and TJ calls it, right? Like, Jenna wins that. And it's kind of an upset, right? Everyone thought that Jenna's heart kind of wasn't in it, even if they were like rooting for her to take Tori out. Like, you know, a lot of people were banking on Jenna wanting to go home, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's I don't know how the crowd felt, but I definitely felt invigorated by it. I mean, Nani's crying, my heart is crying, Jordan's freaking out.
Yeah.
And he gives us that quote that we saw in the promo. Why didn't you listen? He's like screaming. Yeah, he's doing like a total like metal band screamo scream into the ether. And so
it's making Tori feel kind of shitty, right? Like,
yeah, I'm just surprised this entire time that she hasn't blown up at him or yelled at him, like, stop talking, anything.
This was the most amazing thing to me, definitely, is that, like, Jordan comes down, he's like raving like a crazy lunatic. Okay, that's not a cool thing to say, but he's upset. But she kind of instantly flips the tone into this, like, I feel like you see this happen in movies sometimes when, like, somebody realizes the situation, they're gonna go on a suicide mission, and they're just, like, very clear-headed about it, where they're like, here's what you gotta do, Johnny. You take this and you run, okay? You know, she's kind of like that, but with Jordan, right? And it kind of settles Jordan, like, he realizes what he's doing, and he starts to calm down, too. He's saying, like, you did great. He's, like... And he's recognizing that Tori's about to leave. And he's, like, giving her, like, a giant... I don't know if they literally will not see each other, like, in another minute or what. But he's, like, hugging her super hard.
Like, it'll probably be, like, another month.
Yeah, he takes the opportunity to, like, take off his ring that he was, like, holding on for her or something like that.
Yeah, I think he was holding the engagement ring while she did her shit.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because... this goodbye, it's oscillating between, like, you're right, you did so great, between, why didn't you just listen to me? And then he's like, I'm sorry, I'm gonna miss you so much. And he's like, it was yours. It's like, he keeps oscillating. He's, like, trying to see reason, but at the same time, he's so frustrated that he knew the correct way to win, and she didn't make it happen. He's so frustrated.
Yeah. I mean, she keeps it pretty cool-headed. She's like, I need you to be strong right now. I did the best that I could. Just wasn't my day. Blah, blah, blah. Like, stay strong, you know. And it seems like there's some kind of, like, getting in last-minute words to each other sort of feeling. Anyway, she just struck me as, being very much the caregiver. She also, like, does the responsible thing and goes over to, like, you know, congratulate Jenna, right? And Jenna tells her, like, can you help me with this Zach situation now that Tori's going to be on the outside? Like,
right.
So it seems like there is this kind of, like, understanding between all of them. Jordan's being comforted by Nani at one point, even though Nani was rooting for Jenna, who kicked out his fiance, you know? There's just, like, I was surprised. I was telling you this before we recorded, but it's kind of like a surprising level of emotional maturity, like, popping out at this moment, where people are upset, but they're trying to be kind to each other, I guess.
Right. And it's, so last season, Nani was ostracized by her team. And the way the last season worked is that you could go to the opposite team once if you won an elimination. You can only switch once. And that team that she was on, Jordan and Tori were on it. And so it was Nani, Jordan, and Tori kind of against the world before Jordan and Tori switched to the other team. So they got close within that season, just from being on the same side, alliance-wise, and everyone else being against them.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact, Nani found the engagement ring in Jordan's suitcase that season. And because she was like folding clothes or something for Jordan just to be nice, something like that. And found the engagement ring and went to Jordan, and he was like, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to propose to her at some point during this thing. And she kept it a secret from everybody that season. And Jordan said later that, you know, he's like, that's when I knew that, like, Nani I could trust with, like, my life. Because she didn't tell anybody, not even, like, her best friend. So they got close last season. It's always unclear how much of an effect that has on people later.
Right.
Sometimes it sticks, sometimes it doesn't. But at least here we can see that there's genuine feelings that they have for each other.
Yeah.
And a mutual respect.
And as our hearts were warmed, so was TJ's, it seems like. Because he addresses, you know, the two competitors. He's like, what an elimination. Like, it was really down to the wire. You should both be very proud of yourselves. Of course, Jenna now has a red skull. He tells the people, pretty good for her. He's like, this is how it's done. And Jenna seems like pretty like resolutely determined at this point in the episode, like more than she's been, and she doesn't strike me as like a very hardcore person, so it just might be her kind of like mellow way of existing that's like dimming this a bit. But she's like, I hope people were intimidated by that. I hope they saw that I can like pull it out, and I'm gonna put this drama aside and focus on winning the final, because that's why I'm here.
I loved that. I've always been a fan of Jenna. I love her. I love the oxymoron that is her even temperament with her tenacity sometimes when she performs. I've always loved that about her. They call her the Barbie Beast. She's pure of heart. She's sweet. She's kind to people. And she can also compete. And I do love, and she's always respectful of her opponents and everything. So I just like her, and to have all that relationship drama and to have her decide to stay and to win that was really awesome. It was a great story. If you want to make this a message from the author, like, it was pretty great to see that resolution.
Good for her. So that was like the end of the episode, right? We've got a bit of a hint of what the situation might be like the next week, or today, technically, when the next episode comes out. But, right, Jordan is kind of in a vulnerable position right now.
You know what? I think he's mourning. He's mourning because what he has seen is a display of... He's seen the gap between what he thinks Tori is and what she actually is.
Oh, that's what you think's good.
There's a huge gap because she ain't the shit, and he thinks she's up here and she's down here, and I don't know if she'll ever be up there because she seems to have a lack of critical thinking when it comes down to the wire. And if you don't have that, then you're never gonna be top tier.
Wow.
I don't know how you could be. It's an instinct.
Brutal, Gabby. Brutal.
I mean, do you disagree? Do you see her critical thinking skills?
I mean, I would hope he's not, like, having a freak out moment, like, who is this person? But, yeah, I did screen cap, like, his crying baby face in confessional. I was like, oh, my Lord. I was shook. So he seems shook. I don't exactly know why, but I'm shook too. By how much of a baby he's kind of coming across as.
he misses his boo. You know what?
Yeah.
He really wants Tori to get her win.
Yeah.
I think at this point it's getting embarrassing for both of them. Like,
Right.
they keep saying how great she is, blah, 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 and she's turning out to not be someone that gets a challenge win, at the very least early on in her career, because this is like her fifth challenge by now. So he's just as antsy as she is to get a win for her.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Well, maybe next season, Tori.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, they had a bit of a preview for the next episode. It seems like next episode's going to have a double elimination.
Yay!
We'll see what that's about.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I hope it's a male and a female elimination.
Oh, it could not be. Uh-huh.
And that's always good.
Yeah. Interesting. So yeah, that was episode 7 of the challenge. So we were kind of struggling to think about like what we were going to talk about for our outro. We ended up kind of saying that like because this episode in a lot of ways was a culmination, well, not a culmination, but was a storyline that mostly had to do with couples and their dynamics, right? You have the Tori and Jordan, of course. You have the Jenna and Zach. You also have like the just like weird romantic off the cuff feelings like Nani and Casey, you know,
yes.
and like even the friendships of like Anissa and Nani too. So there's just like a lot of relationships. So we thought we would talk about ships, right? Ships in the like I ship these people together or I don't ship them, right? So yeah, do you wanna, you said we could talk about like one ship each of us loves and one each of us hates.
Yeah, but you never replied to the text, so I didn't think about one that we hate.
Okay, well you can think about it right now.
Okay, let me think. You can talk and I'll pretend to listen while I think.
Okay. So yeah, we were also kind of like not super sure of sorry, Leo's like going to the bathroom in the background. And I had to burp. Okay. So for the ship I love, I chose All Might and Deku. I know, starting
okay.
All Might and Deku.
I love them too. Oh my god.
From My Hero Academia.
Is that an anime?
It's an anime, yeah. So just like a quick rundown of who these characters are and what their dynamic is. All Might is like the most, so there's a society where people have evolved to like get superpowers, and most people's superpowers are pretty benign and they live as normal citizens, but a certain subsect have good enough powers that they can be like superheroes for their society. They work like separately from the police, but they like, you know, they help protect the everyday people and they get paid to do it. Because there's a lot of people who have superpowers and use them for bad and they're villains, right?
Yeah.
So All Might is kind of like the world's greatest hero. Like he like always wins. He saved so many people. And Deku is a boy who grew up being kind of strange because he never had a power. He was quirkless is how they called it. And so but he's just idolized All Might like his entire life, and ever since he was a little kid he like wished he could be a hero like All Might, and then to find out that he didn't have any power at all is just like the most heartbreaking thing for him. But he grows up being like a good person and really smart, and like because he's a fanboy about all these heroes he knows a good amount of strategy, and there's a chance encounter between All Might and Deku, and it turns out that All Might has to transfer his power to a new person for various reasons, and he decides to pick Deku because Deku is just a good person. And so he like trains him, he invests in his future, and like there's this kind of like tragic relationship that builds between this like hero and teacher and student and pupil. That's just so heartbreaking to me. because as Deku gets stronger, All Might gets weaker.
Oh no.
And, right? And basically Deku becoming the hero that he's always wanted to be also kind of means that All Might, like, is doomed. And so it's this, like, really, like, sad and beautiful dynamic that I love so much. And I thought I would bring it up here just because nobody fucking talks about this dynamic. And yes, I'm gross and I would love it if they had a romantic aspect too, even though there's a crazy age gap and one of them is like a high schooler boy. And yeah, anyway.
Love age gaps.
I love it. Yeah, so this is the ship that I love. The ship that I hate, and I don't want to spend too much time on it because who the fuck cares?
I could pick so many. You blown up.
Yeah, because like so many ships, especially like the ones that end up being endgame, to me are just so disappointing. And I feel like nothing kind of sums this up more than Harry Potter and Ginny Weasley from the Harry Potter series. We've talked about Harry Potter, you know, how he was this, like, fated person, you know, the boy who lives, who has to defeat Voldemort, and he does it at 17, right? And then we have this whole time jump at the end of Harry Potter, spoiler.
Yeah.
It shows him sending off his own kids to Hogwarts, the school of magic that changed his life, and his wife Ginny is there. Ginny is, of course, his best friend's little sister, the best friend that he met the first day on the train to Hogwarts himself. To me, like, having Harry Potter grow up to be just like a boring family man, it's not that it's not realistic, because Harry was like an orphan with a difficult relationship with his family, but and the Weasleys in Harry Potter have always represented like the kind of family structure that Harry never had and got like accepted into. But right. I feel like for me that just makes the relationship so brother and sister and so kind of boring that I really don't care about relationships like Harry and Ginny's. And it seems like settling, and I don't care. And yeah, there's so many couples like this in media everywhere. But this one was really like a big disappointment when you've got so much magic in Harry Potter to just kind of like snuff it out with this like boring ass resolution. I was just bummed. As soon as I read it, I was like, nah.
Is Ginny a compelling character in the books? I've only ever seen the movies.
Oh my god, yeah.
Because she seems boring as fuck.
She's not very compelling in the books either. Their attempts were made to make Ginny like a kind of cool girl. She turns around her shyness into being just like unapologetically herself. I think is the vibe we're supposed to get. What, did she smoke in the corner
one day or what?
She like dates a black dude.
Oh shit.
No, but I mean she's like supposed to be funny and like relatively popular. She's on the Quidditch team and things like that. But I don't know. It's just not. Yeah, it doesn't work for me. Sorry.
You know, I've never had super strong feelings about Harry Potter in general. Mm-hmm. It's all a bit young for me.
Yeah.
I'm not too big a fan of fantasy. There are so many exceptions that I feel like I can't even say that anymore, but mm-hmm. I'm never interested in like just fantasy. I need a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. But it's just so fantasy based that I never got that into it. But I do like some characters. Mm-hmm. I always liked the Quidditch like captain, I guess, from the first book.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
What's his name?
His name, he's the hottie. Oh my god,
he's
Oliver Wood.
Yes, yeah. I always liked him. And Tom fucking Riddle from the Chamber of Secrets.
Of course,
I love Tom Riddle.
Yeah, a babe. Mm-hmm.
Tom Riddle.
Well, anyway, what are your ships?
Okay, so this is difficult because I'm so indecisive. But I guess yours made me think about this book that I book series that I love is called The Vampire Academy. Have you ever read it?
Oh my God. I had them, but I don't think I ever read them.
Oh my God, Elizabeth.
I should. Yeah.
You should read them. They're so good for, you know, a lovely YA series. Mm-hmm. So there's this couple, well, there's these two characters. Basically in this world, there are 3 types of vampire. Mm-hmm. I say them all wrong, but I think technically it's supposed to be dampiers. They're half human, half vampire. Uh-huh. So they're kind of like the guardians in this world. They protect their moroi, who are the super, you know, full vampires that have powers and they're susceptible to the sun and all that bullshit. Mm-hmm. So they're protected. They're kind of royalty in the world. And then there's the Strigoi, I think is what they're called. I've never had to say these out loud, so now I'm like super self-conscious. Who are like the soulless vampires, right? They go around killing people. They have red eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
They're essentially the ones that are trying to kill off their moroi. So that's who they're fighting against. So basically, it's set in the Vampire Academy. Their moroi learn how to use their powers as well as like regular subjects. The Dampiers do regular subjects as well as learning how to fight, like physically fight, and protect these moroi. And they have assignments after they graduate. Right. They're assigned to a particular moroi to protect.
Okay, I like it.
It's pretty cool. And so Rose is the protagonist, and she's a Dampier, and her best friend, who she has a mental connection with, she can hear her thoughts, is her best friend Lisa, or I think it's Lissa, technically, because there's 2 S's. Okay. She's like the last Dragomir, who's one of the 12 royal families, okay? She's like a princess. Yeah. So they've been best friends since they were like kids. So she's like, I'm gonna protect Lissa for the rest of my life. But so there's like this thing that happens where they have to leave. I'm just like describing the plot. Like there's romance, I promise. Yeah. She like leaves. They have to leave school one day because there's a threat against Lissa, and Rose doesn't think it's safe there. So they leave for 2 years. Then they come back. So a group of Dampiers, led by future love interests, find them, track them down, drag them back to the academy for their, I think it's senior year. And so she's 2 years behind, right? She left as like a freshman. Yeah. So she has to train in the morning, in the night, before and after classes every day to catch up, to be ready. And her trainer is Mr. Dmitry Belikov, okay? And so she's 17 and he's 24, I believe. And he's like 6'7", and he's like the most badass.
6'7".
Yeah, he's like the most badass Russian fighter around. He's also a Dampier. So they just have this really special teacher-student bond. He's very stoic, and her sassiness kind of breaks through his field, and he trains her to be really badass, and she's amazing by the end of the series. She's, you know, the best fucking Dampier around, and has a huge part in that. And so I really like their romance, and have always shipped them from the very beginning. I don't care that it's illegal. I just don't, because it matters of life and death.
Matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Are they? I mean, it sounds like I should read these books, but
you should.
They're an official like couple in the book, right? Like their romance is not just hinted at, right? Or is that?
It goes through lots of stages. Liz, you need to read these books.
I guess I do. Anyway,
because they're incredible.
It's funny that both of us picked two like student-teacher relationships.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. What about the one you hate?
For the ship that I hate, I think I'm going to go with Angel and Cordelia from Angel. Originally from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It's the only one I can think of right now. Because I just have vehemently hated them. I love the characters separately, but
Right.
together, I hate them.
Mm-hmm.
And part of this, and this is another thing I could write a dissertation on, the de-evolution, disguised as evolution, of Cordelia Chase as a character pisses me off to no end. I love Cordelia. I think the writers made some bad choices. I don't think it's her fault as a character, because I do personify these fictional characters absolutely as having their own agency. But her and Angel eventually start to kind of have like feelings for each other, which I don't like. I don't like it for many reasons. One being that, so Angel, he was given his soul. He was cursed with his soul by gypsies. Right. And for 90 years, he was depressed, living in alleys, feeding off rats. Because of all the things that he did as a soulless vampire. He was just guilty as fuck. He didn't want to live for 90 years since that curse happened. And what brings him out of that curse is Buffy. Or what brings him out of that depression is seeing Buffy. He decides to help her, to want to be in her life, to want to help her save the world. He falls in love with her, essentially love at first sight. The reason I didn't want to talk about this as my ship is because there's just so much, people have so much flack for it. Angel's a brooding motherfucker. Also, she's 15. He's 243. Right. I get it. Okay? Yeah. We love age gaps, but still. Yeah. But the point is, like, she was the only thing that mattered to him in almost a century. Right. You're telling me that after a year or two of breaking up with her, he's just gonna like this other bitch? No.
Yeah.
I don't like it. Another 90 years, maybe. Right. So, that being said, the non-petty part of me understands that he worked through shit, he's a different person, he's ready for love, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't feel that it was organic. I think that they just wanted to put two stars together. Right. Go ahead.
And I think maybe something that is similar between the ships that we both dislike is that, like, the writing of what happens later undermines what the writer did effectively earlier on. And that's just always disappointing to see. And so I'm with you. Yeah. I'm an anti-Cordelia Angel. Do they have a ship name? Like, what's their... do they have one?
No.
I don't think either of the ones. Harry and Ginny.
It's hard. Angel is hard because there's so many vowels.
Henny.
Aordelia or Kangle sounds terrible. I know that Buffy is Bangle. Yeah. Rose and Dimitri, I don't know if they have a ship name. But I don't spend a lot of times on forums, you know?
Yeah, that's okay. Well,
or on fan fiction sites.
Well, I'll send you a couple links.
Yeah. You really should read these books. Maybe we can podcast on it, because I go back and reread the series every couple years because it's so fucking good. I
think I have them at my parents' house, so I'll look into it. But
yeah.
Anyway, let's call it a night, my dear.
All right.
That was episode 7 for J-Joel.
7.
Challengers edition.
Episode 8 comes out tomorrow, and I'm very excited to see what's going on with this double elimination, because we probably won't get to see.
That's right. It's going to be too action-packed to show anything. Well, have a good night, my dear.
You too. Bye.
Bye.